Hey guys, welcome to a video on a philosophy called Stoicism. Now I've got up here on the screen three of the most famous Stoics to ever live. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca and Epictetus, and underneath their names is, in my opinion, the book that I would recommend if you're interested to read, because these guys go in depth on the philosophy of Stoicism and they talk much more about their beliefs and their values in their books than I can convey on this presentation. So if you are interested, I would recommend Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think everyone should read that book. Amazing book. Letters from a Stoic by Seneca and Epictetus' Discourses. These are all great books and they're great introductions to Stoicism. So if you like what you see in this video, go and buy their books because you will like what they have to say in their books. Anyway, let's get started on Stoicism. So what is Stoicism? Stoicism is a philosophy that flourished in ancient Greece and ancient Rome until around the 3rd century AD. So this is a philosophy from a very long time ago. And a lot of people have a naive opinion of philosophies that originate a long time ago. They believe that because they're ancient, because they're old, that they lack in validity of some sort because we are more advanced now than we were back then. But Stoicism hits on some very relevant and universally applicable concepts, values and ideas that I believe apply to us even in modern day. It is a philosophy that emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control and not on what we cannot. This is a really important part of Stoicism, is separating things into internals and externals, which is Epictetus' way of understanding what is in our control and what is not. This is fundamental to Stoicism. We do not control what happens to us, but we control how we respond to what happens to us. This is a great Stoic quote, and it pretty much summarizes the philosophy itself. There are no obstacles, setbacks or problems, because that's simply perception, right? There are simply new opportunities for growth, self-mastery and virtue. I've hit on this a couple of times in different videos. In the monk mode video, I'm pretty sure I hit on it, and in the embrace discomfort, I certainly did. Setbacks, obstacles, problems, they are where you are going to grow. They are opportunities, and that is what Stoicism believes also. So the 4 Stoic virtues. So we've got wisdom, which is knowing what is in our control and what is not, knowing what is good and what is bad, and using our experiences to gain lessons and using our logic as guidance. Temperance, which is exercising a life of moderation and self-control. Controlling your impulses takes you from a wild animal to a rational being. This is true. If everybody acted on their impulses, this world would not be a rational place. This world still probably isn't a rational place, but we are rational beings, and that is what separates us from the rest of the creatures that inhabit this planet and this world. Justice, which is doing what is right regardless of the consequences. Regardless of the consequences is a important part of that. Doing what is right regardless of the consequences. The moment we neglect this virtue is the moment collapse begins. There's no doubt about that. Courage, which is resilience in the face of adversity, facing challenges with clarity and integrity. These are the 4 Stoic virtues, and they're very powerful, and I believe that they still apply to us now, because the Stoics weren't touching on something relevant to their time. They were touching on something relevant to us all, to the universal and to the human. These are concepts that will never be irrelevant. Stoic Concepts. So we've got memento mori, which is remember that you will die. We've got amor fati, which is loving your fate. We've got premeditatio malorum, which is preparing for the worst. We've got summum bonum, which is focusing on the highest good. And we've got sympathia, which is we are all made for each other's sake. So memento mori is important to reflect on for a Stoic, because it reminds them that we are not approaching death, we are dying every day. All the time that is past is owned by death. If you think about that, that is true, because the past doesn't actually exist. The only place it exists is in your mind and in your memory. Ask yourself, am I afraid of death because I won't be able to do this anymore? That's something you've got to ask yourself. You know, when you're doing things, am I going to miss this? Do I really value what I'm doing right now? Be present and don't rush towards death, because that's what you're doing. When you're rushing through life, you're simply rushing towards death. Amor fati, love your fate, accept things as they are, be grateful for what you have, let the past go, and embrace your experiences. Grow from them. This is a key concept, and I believe that Nietzsche, in his book Beyond Good and Evil, hits on amor fati as well. He said that the key to greatness is amor fati, is to love your fate. You have to embrace your fate. You can't just accept it, you must embrace it, because it is what has led you to being the person you are today, and it is what will lead you to becoming what you will become. Premeditatio malorum, which is preparing for the worst. A person on the lookout easily endures. Foresee failure and prepare for it. If then it comes, you are better equipped. This is extremely true, and I hit on this in Embrace Discomfort. The more you voluntarily confront adversity, the braver you get, and the better you can deal with adversity. So therefore, when adversity comes of its own accord, you are in a better position than somebody who has not voluntarily confronted that adversity. Summum bonum, focusing on the highest good. The highest good is virtue. Just do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. Don't do the right thing because of the rewards it will get you. Don't do the right thing because of the reputation. I heard Jordan Peterson, and he said, look at me, I'm praying. Now it should be, I'm praying should come first, right? Because that's what should be important. But the fact that they're saying, look at me, shows the level of reputation that they're trying to gain, and that it's all superficial at the end of the day. Don't be superficial. Do the right thing for what it is, not for the consequence of what you'll gain out of it or what others will think of you. Sympathia. We are made for each other's sake. Don't obstruct, help. This is true, you know, we're all very different. There's a lot of conflict in the world right now, in identity politics, and people arguing about who is right, who is wrong, should we do this and should we do that. We are made for each other's sake though, so these arguments are important to come to a conclusion of how to move forward. So finally, how do we start to be a Stoic? Now, the first one I have here is examine your impressions. Is this in my control or is it not? Now, this is something that Epictetus talked about in his discourses. We all have to do this as Stoicism outlines. We have to ask ourselves, is this in my control or is it not? Sometimes you might have something that is partially in your control, such as what we were talking about earlier, reputation. It's partially in your control because you control what you do, but you do not necessarily control the perception of others or your reputation. So there are some ones that are maybe in the middle ground, but usually if you ask yourself, you will be able to find that answer, whether it is in your control or it is not. And if it is not, do not worry about it. Do not attach any importance to it. realize that it is what it is, but focus on how you can respond to that. Focus on what you can control. What can you do about it? Remind yourself of the impermanence of things. Remind yourself of the brief time you have. This is essentially memento mori, reminding yourself that everything is temporary and to be present. Face situations with determination and give it your best shot, but leave the outcome to fate. Let your work be your source of happiness and not the results of your work. It links into justice, which is one of the 4 Stoic virtues that we were talking about earlier. And it's doing the right thing regardless of the results. And that is important. I've been reading recently the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna talks about how we should be detached from the results of our actions. He calls it selfless service. So this is a religious concept, a philosophical concept, but it is a recurring concept. And I think that adds significance to it. It should definitely be considered. For every challenge, use the resources at your disposal. Don't look outside of yourself for what you could have or what you want or what you wish you had to help you with your current problem. Use what you currently have to deal with your current problem. Don't look outside yourself. You have everything you need. Take a deep breath, pause. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This is true. This is so true. Listen more than you speak and say only what is necessary. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, he had a quote, and he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen more than we speak." And maybe that is the way that God created us. Maybe that is the way it was intended to be. Certainly, we should listen more than we speak, because there is far much more that we can learn from listening than from speaking. Choose your company wisely. I think everyone should do this regardless of whether you're into Stoicism, whether you're a Stoic, whether you practice Stoicism, or whether you read the Stoics. You should still choose your company wisely. Everybody at this point has heard the quote, "You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And with the content that people are watching online these days, that's pretty much you are the sum of the 5 people you watch the most. So choose your company wisely, choose who you watch wisely, and choose who you let influence you wisely as well. Respond to insults with humour. And this is a great quote by Epictetus. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." This is just beautiful humility. It's just humility and indifference. It's being so humble, so present, so grounded, and so aware of yourself and your shortcomings and your flaws that you're readily able to admit to them, to look at them for what they are, and do whatever you can, whatever is in your control, to rectify them and improve them and make them your strengths. Make a regular practice of gratitude. Realize the blessings that are around you and those you take for granted. We all have things we take for granted. Me personally, I went through a leg break, serious injury, broke my tibia, and it taught me that I took movement for granted. You know, I'm a person who, I've been training mixed martial arts for a long time, so I love being able to move my body freely. I've realized that so much since the leg break, since being immobilized, since being impeded. When the blessings are taken away, you realize how much you truly value them. And there's a great quote from Marcus Aurelius. He says, "Rejoice for what you have, and remember how much they would be missed if you did not have them." You really should do that, because once it is taken away, you are forced to miss them. But if you can appreciate them before they are taken away, you're in a great state of mind, you are present and you are grounded, and you are on your way to, I would say, achieving tranquility and equanimity. reflect on each day. What did I do? What went well? And how can I improve? This is how a Stoic improves. You have to evaluate and you have to analyze. A lot of people go through life without doing this. But I believe that if all of us examine how our days went, our shortcomings, where we did right, where we were perhaps misguided, then we can look to rectify those mistakes. And once they're identified, we can search for the solution to those problems. But anyway, that's the last slide. So if you guys enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. This is a longer video. This is my longest video so far, even though I've only made 3 videos, but I actually really enjoyed making this video. Stoicism is a philosophy that has been, I would say, on a resurgence recently. It's very popular on platforms like YouTube and Spotify. People know about Stoicism, and that's a great thing, because I believe that if each of us can incorporate a little bit of Stoicism into our lives, we will lead a more free, fulfilling, and enlightened life. I truly believe that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe like I said. Give me a comment about what you think about Stoicism. And remember, if you're interested in Stoicism, you definitely should read the works of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Those are the 3 authors, philosophers, Stoics that I would recommend to you. And the 3 books that I said were the Meditations, Letters from a Stoic, and Discourses, if you want to continue your Stoic studies. But anyway, stay strong, boys.